You might have a client that says that they can't focus. They feel distracted and all over the place. Or they'll say the opposite, that once they lock in, they can't let go and they miss signals. They don't hear people. They get irritated when something interrupts their flow. And both of those extremes get labeled as attention issues. Sometimes they're praised, sometimes they are pathologized. And this is where a lot of coaching quietly goes wrong, innocently so. Because attention is where many coaches believe that they're working and where misdiagnosis is most common. Because attention is not a mental skill. It is a whole system behavior. All right, before we go further, the way that you focus will be shaped by your nervous system and your embodiment pattern, and we call these patterns the skins. There are 4 primary ways that the nervous system organizes under pressure. Some bodies resist and brace, that's the warrior. Some yield and adapt, that's the shapeshifter. Some narrow and orient, that is the sage, and some widen and sense as the asset. These are somatic response strategies, not personality labels, and they shape how you handle conflict, leadership, visibility, intimacy, decision-making, all the things. So knowing your skin matters, and it doesn't give you a limiting label. It gives you liberation, because once you know how your system responds to pressure, you can see where your strengths and your blind spots usually are. So pause the video, go down into the description and take the free Somatic Skins Quiz. You'll receive an initial description of your native skin and then come back. And so everything I'm about to share then on attentional coherence will make a lot more personal sense. Attentional coherence isn't about narrowing or opening the field. It's about whether the system can move attention without losing structure. When that ability drops offline, attention doesn't disappear, it compensates. And it almost always compensates in one of 2 ways. Either your attention field will get too narrow or it gets too open. So let's start with the narrowing. We call this tunneling. Tunneling is what happens when attention constricts so tightly, think like a straw, that the rest of the world effectively disappears. And this is important because tunneling is not just focus, it's an attempt to create order by excluding everything else. You'll see this often emerge under stress. The person becomes extremely competent at the one thing in front of them, efficient, sharp, tasked, but they lose awareness of the broader context, of relationship, of the room, of the energetic tone around them. And the body will tell the story if you know where to look, because their torso will narrow, their breath becomes vertical, micro movements flatten, the system turns into a straight line aimed at a straight single target, like a laser beam. And from the inside, tunneling feels like hyper-vigilant urgency, but it feels like clarity, like necessity. I have to do this. This is the only thing that matters right now. But it is brittle clarity, the kind that can't accommodate interruption or change. And you'll see it when someone snaps if they're startled, or they shut down emotionally when plans shift, or insist on finishing a task long after it's stopped being relevant. This is not perfectionism. It is survival hardwired into the system. The nervous system narrows the field because it can't stabilize the full environment. Reducing the world to a single track feels safer than holding the complexity. And this is where it's easy to miss as a coach, because we reward this pattern. We call it focus, drive, being locked in. But underneath, the system is compensating for a lack of capacity to hold a wider perspective and field. And the longer tunneling stays in place, the more fragile the system becomes. Resolution doesn't come from relaxing attention or forcing presence. It comes from expanding the field mechanically. horizontal gaze, rotational movement, lateral breath, practices that require tracking space, not just targets. Slowly, deliberately, the system relearns how to orient without collapsing into chaos. Now let's flip to the other side, porosity. If tunneling is too little field, porosity is too much, like a sponge. In a porous attentional pattern, everything enters the system with equal priority. Every sound is important, every emotion, every shift in someone else's state. Boundaries blur, distinctions fade. From the inside, this can feel like openness, sensitivity, even attunement, but it's unfiltered openness. And so the system is absorbing more than it can process. You'll often see this in people who are highly interoceptive or relationally intelligent. Think the acid and the shapeshifter skins. They'll feel subtleties that others miss. They track mood states and shifts instantly. They pick up on everything. Without structural or energetic coherence, though, sensitivity turns into distortion because they feel everything, but they can't always tell what belongs to them and what belongs to others. And again, the body will give it away. Their posture wavers, breath becomes inconsistent, attention drifts outwards instead of having an anchor point, and the system softens without support. Psychologically, this shows up as empathic overwhelm, anxiety in groups, difficulty saying no, a tendency to mirror the emotional states of whoever they're with. Many people in this pattern believe that they're too sensitive. They're not. The issue isn't sensitivity. It's the absence of a stable frame through which sensation can be interpreted. And this is where it matters if you're a coach, because if you see this, you might encourage more openness, more empathy, more feeling, which just increases the flood. Porosity stabilizes when the system regains internal boundaries. Structural stacking that gives sensation somewhere to land. Breath pressure downward, a clear and steady gaze. Practices that require maintaining one's own tempo, one's own desires or preferences in the presence of others. Not closing down, but organizing. Here's the diagnostic distinction to hold. Tunneling excludes the world to stay safe. Porosity absorbs the world to be connected and loses itself. And both are attempts to manage more input than the system can currently regulate. And neither is solved at the level of mindset or meaning or insight. Attentional coherence is about whether the field can be wide and stable at the same time, whether awareness can move without losing structure, whether the system can stay embodied while tracking complexity. Once attention stabilizes, identity stops fragmenting under pressure and presence becomes reliable. Choice becomes possible again. So in the next video, we're going to move into identity coherence breakdown, where compliance, control, empowerment, and self-betrayal stop being moral issues and they start becoming readable somatic patterns. And that's where attention, energy, and structure, what we've been stacking, finally gets tested. And where things get very honest, very fast. Okay, if you, like us, really love this stuff and you want to go deeper, there are 2 ways to do so. You can first check out our core curriculum in our books, Somatic Skins and Becoming the Grand Formidable. They are both linked down below to order. Or you can train with us directly by applying for our next season in the Prestige and experience the power of this work for yourself. If you are watching this, or depending on when you're watching this, we are rolling out the new season soon in the next couple of weeks. And so now is the time for us to connect. Until next time, thank you so much for being here. Please do consider liking and subscribing. It helps the channel out a lot.